Do we base our decisions on reason and logic or on our gut? It's a question underlying the fine print in the newest book by best-selling author Michael Lewis. He's been talking with our John Blackstone.
So the book is finished now. It's going to go out to reviewers.
Yes.
Do you worry about that when the reviews come back?
You want to just plumb my anxieties? Because I'm happy to do this.
Michael Lewis would seem to have little reason to be anxious. He's turned books about bond sales, baseball statistics, and the housing crisis into bestsellers. But he admits his upcoming book, The Undoing Project, A Friendship That Changed Our Minds, doesn't immediately sound like a compelling read.
When people ask me what this book was about, it's a book about two Israeli psychologists. Nobody ever asks a follow-up question when you tell them you're writing a book about two Israeli psychologists.
Those two Israeli psychologists, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, grabbed Lewis's attention when he discovered he should have known about them before he wrote Moneyball.
So I pride myself, when I get into a story, on seeing what the story is and shining the light in the right places. And I really missed something big when I was writing Moneyball.
Moneyball, made into a movie starring Brad Pitt, describes how Billy Beane, general manager of the Oakland A's, built a winning team by ignoring the gut instincts of experienced major league scouts and instead using data analysis to find good players who were undervalued by other teams.
If we win on our budget with this team, we'll change the game.
And if they could be misvalued by experts in valuing them, who's not misvalued? You're probably misvalued in some way.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Probably undervalued.
Undervalued,
right.
For sure.
The question is, like, why does that happen?
How can the gut instincts of apparent experts, and all of us for that matter, so often be so wrong? That question is what Kahneman and Tversky studied for decades. It's been said they changed the way we think about thinking.
What they were engaged in right from the beginning was undoing a false view man has of himself. The view that the mind is somehow rational and untrickable and potentially infallible. They took dead aim at it and they dealt it a death blow.
What captivated Lewis was their relationship. They met in the psychology department at Hebrew University. Eventually, both moved to universities in North America.
Neither on his own was terribly disruptive. Together, they were this combustible force.
Two brilliant minds that seemed completely different. If the title hadn't already been taken, you could have called this The Odd Couple.
Well, that's absolutely right. Amos Tversky is one of these rare characters who thought he was right about everything and is right. He was a breathtakingly gifted mind. And very, very, very sure of himself.
Kahneman, though, is unsure of most everything. Danny certainly doesn't trust his mind, right?
Oh, no. No. Danny doesn't trust his mind to the point where when they finish one of their papers, Amos would basically wait by the phone at 2 or 3 in the morning for Danny's call saying, it's all wrong, it's going to destroy our reputations, we can't publish it.
Tversky died 20 years ago at the age of 59. Kahneman went on to win the Nobel Prize for integrating psychological research into economics. In 2013, President Obama awarded him the Medal of Freedom.
Now, all of us have moments when we look back and wonder, what the heck was I thinking? I have that quite a bit. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman has made that simple question his life's work.
Kahneman and Tversky showed that gut instinct is far from dependable. There was a lesson in that for Lewis himself, a man strongly self-confident. So are you more likely now to listen to your wife, listen to your editors?
So the answer to that is yes, a little bit. My wife would totally disagree. I mean, totally disagree. But I actually have taken this on board, that I am aware that I have very strong impulses that I often obey, and they've misled me in some cases, and it's worked out in other cases. But from my life story, I could build a narrative that my gut is great, and I should just follow it, because I forget the mistakes it led to, and I remember the successes.
One success, The Big Short, about the mortgage crisis, was made into an Oscar-winning movie.
The default rates are already up from 1% to 4%, fellas. And if they rise to 8%, and they will, a lot of these triple Bs are going to 0 too. And then that happens.
What is that?
That's America's housing market.
Lewis now lives in Berkeley, California.
The view is part of the attraction, clearly.
His first book, Liar's Poker, was about his time in New York as a young bond trader on Wall Street.
A large part of that book is how people are so irrational in the decisions they make. Yeah, you know, the foundation stone of Liar's Poker, and in some ways the Undoing Project, was my astonishment that anybody would take my financial advice. I mean, really, I was 24 years old. I was an art history major. I knew nothing about money.
He was getting rich quick, but his gut instinct told him he'd be happier writing for a living.
It wasn't even a decision. I mean, it looked insane to my father and to the people I worked for because they thought, you know, what are the odds he's going to make it as a writer?
But make it, he did.
Inside corner.
As a best-selling author, a perk he seems to enjoy most is having plenty of time to spend with his 3 children. Catching fastballs hurled by his 14-year-old daughter.
You gonna guard me?
Taking on his 9-year-old son and a couple of friends on the basketball court.
Oh, 4-2.
What about other parents when they see that the author of Moneyball is coaching a team?
So I sponsor the teams too. So for years, the teams were called the Moneyballers or the Blindsiders or the Big Shorters. And I just put whatever book I was working on their jersey just for fun.
Lewis figures the Undoing Project, like those books, has movie potential too. The first hardbound copies arrived the day we visited.
It looks great. I was worried it was going to be way too fat.
He's already thinking about his next book.
There you go. Right.
Something about raising children.
That's unhittable.
The research for that he can do right in his own backyard.
All right. That's 30.